And welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment of our program brought to you by English Mountain Spring Water. As you can see, open as usual. Visit EnglishMountainH2O.com. Make sure you type in an O there and not a zero, H2O.com. Now, if you get water delivered to your home or office, and if you request it, they can leave the delivery right outside your door. That's what I have them do at my home. Now, I've always done that because sometimes I'm not there. But if you don't want to do the contact with them, they will leave the water right outside your door. EnglishMountainH2O.com to learn more. All right. Want to welcome in the next member of our panel right down there, Chuck Cavaliers. Thank you, Chuck. Thanks for taking off the
social distance.
That's right. Thanks for taking off the Cowboys mask that you wore coming in.
Yes.
It's literally a mask that says Cowboys on it. So hope you were happy with yesterday's draft.
Yes, I was.
Or this weekend's draft.
And like a lot of people, enjoyed watching it. Really did, all 3 days.
Let's go ahead and talk about who went where. And as you know, let's see, how do we want this, Chris? Over here? I think that's where you wanted it. Darrell Taylor to Seattle, second round. If we're talking about who's going to make teams, I'm pretty sure he's going to make the team. Thoughts on his landing spot? I mean, second round pick, he should be contributing this year. They should be targeting him as a starter, if not this year, next year.
Well, I thought the interesting thing about Darrell Taylor is you listen to their general manager talk. They almost took him in the first round. He was in the conversation for that pick when they went with the linebacker from Texas Tech, and then they trade up to get him. And with the interview with Darrell Taylor, that you could tell he was really impressed by that. So the fact that they did trade up in the second round, and then the mocks, what did you see him, guys? Third round maybe?
Yeah, third was about the highest.
So yeah, I mean, you would think he would have the best chance of all the ones.
Well, I like where he is, John, because Seattle had, 23 or 24 sacks last year. That's all they had. They don't have Jadeveon Clowney back, although he only had 3 sacks. He wants $20 million. He ain't getting that.
Still, yeah.
But they need a pass rusher. And I think that Darrell Taylor fits that mold. So I think that's a really good landing spot for Darrell Taylor.
It'll be interesting to see how Pete Carroll uses him. He may wind up, he loves those edge guys that can play what he called the elephant position, kind of like a Willie McGinnis back with his days in the Patriots that I remember. It'll be interesting to see how he uses him and how effective Darrell Taylor is with that style of coach. It's different than Jeremy Pruitt, you would think. Pete Carroll's very much upbeat, loud, talkative, chatty, fun. Pruitt seems more down-to-earth business, but we'll see. I think it's a great situation. You go in the top 50 picks, you've done a good thing.
And Pete Carroll said he thought that Darrell Taylor was a perfect fit for their system, and they really loved the bend getting around the edge. I think that's what put him over the top. And 16 and a half sacks the past 2 years at Tennessee, but didn't it seem like half of that came in 2 games?
Well, it did the year before.
Yeah.
Now, this past year, he was more consistent, but the year before, he had 7 sacks in 2 games.
He still had strong games against guys who couldn't top his speed. When the other guy was quick enough to not let speed beat him, he had some struggles. It'll be interesting. All right, we got to start moving through these. Juwan Jennings, let's talk about him. That's the one so many people are interested in. Jeremy Pruitt put out a tweet after Jennings was drafted yesterday, really bragging on him, if we could get that up. There we go. Juwan Jennings is one of the best teammates, leaders, competitors, and players that I've ever had the privilege of coaching. Proud of him. Let him know, Vol Nation. Now, part of that was that Trey Wingo on ESPN, when announcing it, said he had issues with 2 coaching staffs, and, of course, Tennessee fans went nuts. Here's the problem. They did get that wrong. He didn't have a problem with his staff. But the problem is when you are trying to prep for 300 possible people to be drafted and you're doing it fly, some things slip out, and they slip out wrong, and I'm sure that's what happened to Trey Wingo. For all the people like, how dare he? I don't think they're attacking Tennessee. As somebody who does this business, I will say things on here and then go back and watch the show that afternoon and go, I can't believe I said Minnesota instead of Mississippi. It happens. So I think that was an honest slip. When you look at Jennings going to the Niners, though, first-round pick, Brandon Ayuk from Arizona State. They took another wideout. Third-round pick last year, Jalen Hurd, probably competing with for a roster spot with your old teammate Jalen Hurd. They have 8 more receivers on their roster. That's 11 receivers on their roster, and they like multiple tight ends as well. They got 4 tight ends. He's going to have, as good as he is, likely no rookie camp, no passing camp, you would think, shortened training camp. I'm afraid his best hope is to get stashed away on the practice squad. Am I right or wrong on how tough the road is for him?
No, I mean, I would agree with that. They are talking about one of those receivers there, Dante Pettis. They do say that he's going to be traded. And then they did make another, they did, but it is. and you are looking at a slot receiver and competing with Jalen Hurd, who has had staying healthy. So maybe Juwan can stick around, get on the practice squad, but then when he gets on the field, they're impressed with what they saw. Pro Football Focus had an interesting stat that said he forced 30 missed tackles.
More than any receiver in college football last year.
I thought 6 of those were against South Carolina on one play when he scored a touchdown.
Thoughts on, I mean, there's no shame in making a practice squad and sticking around, and then a lot of guys develop that way. You don't see many 7th-round draft picks that come in and start. So maybe he's the exception because he is such a headstrong player. But 7th-round draft pick on a loaded team that was in the Super Bowl last year.
Exactly.
That's going to be very tough. And I think even if he doesn't make the practice squad, I think he may have – here's my point. If he'd landed somewhere else, I think he might have had a better chance of sticking with the team. It's not a comment on him. It's a comment on where he landed for me.
When I saw that he was drafted, and you do want to be drafted, I get that, but I also thought would he have been better off being a free agent and picking where the place that he wants to go, Green Bay. But anyway, I wondered about that a little bit with him. Now, I do think this guy's going to be an NFL player for about 10 years. I think he's good enough to do that. I just don't know if it's going to be with San Francisco.
Exactly. Yeah. I think it's going to be a slow start and a long career.
Yeah,
as long as mentally he keeps together.
And then you have Marquez Callaway.
Oh, hang on.
Okay.
Next we have Marquez Callaway. He went to the New Orleans Saints, and I don't have time for you. We're going to be very quick.
Well, they may be signing Jameis Winston, which is interesting. That will be somebody else that you can make an impressive. Even if you're just getting reps with Jameis Winston, maybe Callaway can impress them that way.
Jimmy, you're a Saints fan. Chances that's a loaded weapon, loaded arsenal with weapons in New Orleans. Thoughts about his landing spot?
I think it's a good spot for him. And obviously with the passing game, the Saints like to throw it around. They won't keep 11 receivers, but they'll keep a lot of them. And I think that's a good spot for Callaway to help learn that system to go with the Saints with their passing attack. I think it's a good spot for Callaway.
Well, yeah, and to be clear, the Niners aren't going to keep 11 either. You know what I'm saying. Right. He's got to compete with 11 guys for more like 5 spots, 6 spots. Then you got, who did I put next? Nigel Warrior to the Baltimore Ravens. I think he got in a great spot. I really do. You've got 3 safeties on their roster. Chuck Clark, who's 36. Earl Thomas, who's 29, Deshaun Elliott, who's 32. So you got 36, 32. They've also got Jordan Richards, who is a guy who used to play for the Patriots. I can tell you, he sucks. So he's got a really good chance. They also drafted Geno Stone in the 7th round. So in the 7th round, it was either Stone or Warrior, and they took Stone, which means Stone has the advantage if we're going to draft him and sign this guy. But I like this landing spot for Nigel Warrior.
And like Jimmy said, I think that's one of the advantages of the free agent is you get to pick and your agent gets to research where you go.
All right. And then we got Dominic Wood-Anderson signed with the Seattle Seahawks. If he ever lives up to the way he looks, I think he'll be a NFL player. He was the old line looks like Tarzan.
I thought he would be more productive at Tennessee. I was wrong about that. I don't know all the reasons why, but is that a good spot for him? I don't know. I guess we'll find out. He just has to be more productive. That's on him.
And then we got Daniel Pettis, who still hasn't signed as of this morning, unless it's happened in the last 45 minutes or so. Daniel Pettis still hasn't signed. Talked about the knees being an issue. And then after Morgan Cox signed out of nowhere, I mean, that was a guy we never covered in terms of draft possibilities. He signs with the Ravens and has a decade-long career. Ever since then, whenever Tennessee has a long snapper that's a senior, I put him on our undrafted free agent watch list. No word on Riley Loving could get a shot. That's why he's on there, because those long snappers sometimes get shots when you don't expect it. All right, let me tell you about another one of our sponsors here very quickly, Tennessee Urology. Right now, they're still doing telehealth appointments, except for urgent or emergency care patients. So you can get onto their website and you can have a one-on-one visit via telescreen with their doctors. But they are looking right now at reopening for other patients and also their new surgery center. They're looking at reopening that. That's, like so many businesses, they're waiting on the go-ahead from the city and county and state. Visit TennesseeUrology.com. All right, when we come back, good news, college football fans. A poll of FBS athletic directors shows that a whopping huge percentage of them believe you are going to have college football in some form or fashion this season. We'll discuss that. Come on back on the Sports Show.